Welcome, everyone. Good to have you here to this Daring Cities 2024 virtual session on No One Left Behind, Equity-Focused Tools for an Inclusive Transition. We're going to have a very practical session today and quite interactive as well. I'll be today's moderator for the session. My name is Cale Roberts. I'm the Deputy Director in our U.S. Office of ICLE, located in New York. So hope to see several of you if you're making your way to Climate Week here in a couple weeks. And just like that stop on the calendar for climate advocacy, I'm so pleased to be here for Daring Cities, which has become such a great community and series for us to build momentum in our climate journey each and every year. So happy to have everyone who's on the line part of that journey. Like I said, this event is part of our 2024 series, which is a 13-week long exchange and inspiration building moment for collaboration integrated on integrated climate action. So we've been running this from August now, and it'll go through October of the year as a virtual forum and a dedicated place for us to exchange ideas. A couple of housekeeping remarks. Everyone on the line, you probably see that you are already muted upon entry, but we have this chat feature available. The webinar is being recorded, so we can circulate it among those who could not join today. But like I said, we'll have an interactive portion. So the way that today is set up is the presentation from our amazing guests, who I'll introduce here shortly, and then we will have some breakout rooms where you can go off mute, and we'll have some exchange on the topics that our guests have shared. So a little bit about today's program. Like I had mentioned, it's equity-focused tools for an inclusive transition. So very, very much about how to achieve these outcomes. We're going to explore how we can ensure the needs and realities of residents who live in our communities are fully recognized in local and regional government action to address the climate emergency. And to do this work, we have a great resource at our disposal. So we're highlighting the Malmö Commitment on inclusive and equitable communities, which builds this network of local and regional governments who are all signatories and endorsers of the Malmö Commitment, and have agreed to work together on inclusive approaches to sustainability and zero emissions development. So it's within this Malmö Commitment, as both a network and a guiding set of principles, that this session focuses on tools. Like, what are the concrete processes that we have to work within to bring climate emergency planning together with social equity priorities. So if we can go to the agenda slide, please, Kata. I'll introduce our speakers real fast. These speakers come from diverse communities who are pioneers in this Malmö Commitment. And today, they'll focus on three key areas. Iris Krikula will focus on integrated planning. Iris is joining us from the city of Turku in Finland. Patrick Cornell is joining us from the city of Pittsburgh and will focus on innovative budgeting. And Lucila Garcia is joining us from the city of Santa Fe in Argentina and will focus on effective partnerships. So we'll hear from each of these three amazing guests, and then we'll go into breakout rooms. Each of our guests will be in one of the breakout rooms, so you'll be able to join and hear more from them on a particular topic that they're speaking to. So next slide, please. I'll talk a little bit more here for a moment about the Malmö Commitment, since that initiative, that set of principles is really in focus today. So the Malmö Commitment positions local and regional governments at the center of a global response to today's challenges. And in particular, encourages participatory and inclusive policymaking in climate, on nature, and in all aspects of a holistic sustainability journey for our communities. Um, the commitment works by embedding social equity at the core of local sustainable development. So next slide, please, which will list our 12 Malmö Commitment pioneers. I just want to tell you a little bit about what these cities on the screen, cities and regions, are committing to, and what's in this Malmö Commitment, in case your own community might want to be part of this. So these 12 pioneers are identifying key sustainability challenges with a social dimension that must be prioritized within their community. So those social dimensions are specific to each of these communities. It's a very tailored kind of assessment of what the social dimensions are. Next, they're selecting smart indicators. So these social equity indicators that can help measure and monitor progress. After that, these pioneer cities are reporting on their progress and sharing the successes in forums like today. Lessons learned on how the government is making progress toward meeting those indicators in the success metrics. And then finally, the pioneers encourage other local governments, their neighbors within the region or within their country, and hope that all of you on the line will be part of supporting the Malmö Commitment in a way that works for your community. So with that, I think we are very excited to turn it over to our first guest. I believe we can move to a next slide, or I'll just hand it over for Iris Krikula to share a screen and talk through how this commitment is working in the city of Turku. So over to you, Iris. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be here and tell about our experiences, how we're combining circular economy and also social equal transition. So we just, maybe the next slide, please. Yeah, and also the next one. Thank you. So we just joined Malmö Commitment this summer in the ICLEI's World Congress in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And the targets of the commitment are actually quite well in line already what we are doing with our sustainable development targets in our city. We were one of the first cities to carry out an evaluation of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals through voluntary reporting. And our goal is to become a climate neutral city by 2029 and one of the leading world's leading climate and nature cities. And those are not just words on paper. We are actually achieving our targets because we've reduced the greenhouse gas emissions by 63% from the 1990 level, which, if I may say, is quite impressive. So, yeah, but we are also aware that we cannot reach these goals on our own. And for the remaining emissions and for the other goals that we have, the biodiversity goals and also circular economic goals, we need to have everyone on board. And that means businesses, academic organizations, communities, and residents, that they all need to join in the effort. And while we want our residents to participate, it's really important that they see the city accountable and that the sustainability actions actually result in concrete improvements in the citizens' welfare. Could I have the next slide, please? And so we see that a way to reach carbon neutrality by 2029 and our other goals of becoming resource-wise society by 2040 is through circular economy. So we're using circular economy as a tool. Could I have the next slide, please? Thanks. So through the Circular Turku project, we did it in partnership with ICLEI and the Finnish Innovation Fund Sitra. We developed and launched the Circular Turku roadmap, which was approved by the city board in late 2021. Could I have the next one? And we had more than 200 stakeholders from Turku region involved in defining the circular economy interventions. And we think that one of our strengths is actually that we operate through various local, national, and international networks, including also businesses, research institutes, and civil society. This way, we can gather input from several actors and the best know-how, and also create commitment and momentum. Can I have the next one, please? So we have the roadmap has 5 priority topics. There were actually 10, but then it was narrowed down to 5 that can have the biggest impact and can be also scaled. So there's the energy system, the food value chains, water cycles, building and constructions, and transportation and logistics. Could I have the next one, please? And we also believe that the circular transition, to be fair, we want that all our residents should have access to public services and infrastructure through circular economy solutions. And the residents should also have the opportunity to participate in designing the solutions, not that they're just for the residents, but with the residents rather. And the circular economy opportunities should be open to all through education and employment. So they offer possibilities. And then, strategies are nice, but real life examples are even better. So if I could have the next slide, please. So I have 6 examples of what we are doing in the area that actually are making the life of local residents easier. These are circular examples. So one is the Liike. It's the world's first electric library bus, and it brings around the city where there are no stable libraries. It brings the library services, and it's it's really nice. I use it every week. And of course, we have electric buses. 1/3 of the buses are electric, and they operate over half of all the rides. And then we are building this energy positive student village. It has a lot of innovative energy solutions, sharing options, and there's also student mentors that go around and tell about the project, and also tell other students how to live in a more sustainable way. And actually, if you're a student living there, the apartments are very affordable. They are quite new, or actually some of them are just a few years old, and you can have secured and affordable energy as well. And then there are these intermediate space model for culture, where there are these spaces that are not in use at the moment, but they're being offered for these independent professionals who then offer cultural services to the residents. And people get to enjoy also more culture in various ways. Could I have the next slide, please? Okay, and then there's the Wise Food project, which I'm leading currently. It promotes resource-wise and food and innovations. We do it in collaboration with the University of Turku and also Vocational Institute, and we're trying to create these new models of teaching and collaboration platforms together with local food industry companies, so to come up with new innovations. And then there's this sort of like this showcase, the old market hall, where there are these local producers. It's very popular for the local residents and also for tourists. So we want to promote circular economy, also these solutions, so that it's about knowledge sharing also. And then we have the creative circular cities, which is about combining culture and creative sector and promoting circular economy through culture in collaboration with the residents. So the residents also create art together with the cultural sector, and they're trying to come up with solutions how to bring down, for example, consumption-based emissions and how to live more sustainably. And then the last one is about these urban gardening opportunities that the city is offering for free or for very low cost. So you can raise your own food, not all of it, but a little bit at least. So it also has this recreational value, and it's really nice to see all those farming lands when you go. For example, some of them are located at the riverside, and then others around the city. So those are really, really nice. If I could have the last slide. So that was actually the last slide, and thank you very much. We believe that Turku is made circular together in collaboration. Thank you.
So appreciate that, Iris. For a long time now, years, I've been sharing the Turku Circular Economy Plan. It's one of the best and clearest plans on circular economy that I've seen around the world. So even here in the United States, many of the cities appreciate all the work that you've done there, and how you used social equity and community involvement as the entry point to circular economy is so valuable. I think, to have that kind of example, because not too many cities have taken that approach. So really appreciate all that you shared.
Great to hear that. Thank you.
Great. And to remind those on the line, at the end of our presentations, we will move into a breakout room segment. So you'll be able to speak with Iris a little more if this is the topic that interests you. Until then, we've got a couple more great presentations and people to hear from. So up next is City of Pittsburgh. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Patrick Cornell, the Chief Financial Officer with the city, to learn a little bit more about how Pittsburgh has pioneered priority-based budgeting. So over to you, Patrick.
Thanks, Kel. Appreciate it. Let me get my slides up. Okay, are we good?
We are good.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so hello, everyone. My name is Patrick Cornell. I'm coming at you from the city of Pittsburgh in the United States. I'm the Chief Financial Officer. We have a big collaboration within the city of Pittsburgh with respect to the Malmö Commitment, with work with ICLEI, with our procurement teams, with the budget teams, and with our sustainability and resilience teams. So we're excited to bring you just one piece of this puzzle as we move through. So the first thing I want to highlight with priority-based budgeting, the big thing is your city, your municipality, you need to have priorities set. So in our case, Mayor Gainey has 11 distinct items that he highlights as his driving factors, his driving force. And they build up into three main categories: safe neighborhoods, welcoming communities, and thriving people. If you ever hear Mayor Gainey speak, he almost always brings it back to one of these topics. He wants to see a city, Pittsburgh, that is the safest, most welcoming, and most thriving city in America. So that kind of alludes to how we've gotten to this place. Our initial introduction to priority-based budgeting was actually in fall 2020. We participated in a Bloomberg Philanthropies American Cities Climate Challenge under the leadership of Mayor Bill Peduto in the prior administration. Through that, we were introduced to ResourceX, which is a firm that hosts an online platform for priority-based budgeting. You know, they were one of the first groups that I saw in this space to make it easy to align a municipality's budget with their programs and their priorities. So for that opportunity, the main goal was, you know, during COVID-19, during the pandemic, it was, how can we repurpose the budget that we have to make meaningful impact on climate change? Knowing that the pandemic really did negatively impact finances across the world. So if we don't have new monies to add, how do we take a look at what we do have? So we started building our priority-based budget with ResourceX through this opportunity. The first step was to identify mayoral priorities. Mayor Peduto had his own set of priorities. A lot of them were similar to Mayor Gainey's, but they were slightly different. And then we had to actually move through our using departments, our internal teams, and create programs. This got a little bit tricky. We had some groups, our Department of Parks and Recreations had, dozens and dozens of programs, and it was almost too granular. We didn't need a program for each specific pool, but those could kind of roll up into aquatics as a program. Our animal care and control team had too few. They had basically animal care and control. And we said those are a little too broad. So working through, we found a good balance. Our permits, licenses, and inspections team is a good example of it being just right. They came through with program ideas that made sense for their teams, for their work, but also that the public can understand. So it's important to have residents understand and be able to digest what your government is doing. So from there, we worked through and allocated each of our budget lines. At the time, we were working with the 2020 budget to these programs. And then the last thing was scoring it against priorities. So when you take all of this information together, you have a sense of which programs within the city government align with the mayor's priorities. And from there, you're able to make more strategic decisions for each of those priorities, one of which, then and still now is climate and equity. So what we did once we had all that done is we had insights workshops. We invited city staff. We had administrative buy-in with some key leaders, the chief of staff and the director of my office, the Office of Management and Budget. And the idea was, all right, let's think of working within what we have now. How can we find money, save money in a way that helps the environment, in a way that we can then free up dollars for future climate insights. From there, we had 98 different ideas. We had $41 million identified with 222 unique comments offered by city staff. Some of these ideas were, they were lofty goals. They were things that we might not be able to do immediately, but it was still valuable insight. Some of them made sense. Some of them were creative. One of them said, let's build solar power robots to cut grass. And I said, I don't think we have the engineering that we need to build solar power robots, but that was a fun idea. So what we did was we tagged our insights, we classified our feasibility. Unfortunately, the robots did not make it on the feasible schedule. And then we met with the mayor and chief of staff and we said, what do you need to see? So we formed small working groups to explore some immediate items. The three major tasks were, how do we reduce paper consumption? How do we move to more environmentally friendly procurement, especially with respect to shifting old equipment out and getting new equipment in? And then in general, how do we make our programs more efficient in a way that impacts climate, saves time and money, and allows us to reduce redundancy? So some of these we moved through. The nature of the pandemic actually helped with paper consumption. We didn't have a choice, things moved digitally. But from there, we have implemented a lot of these ideas that came out of our initial insights sessions. Then from there, it was, well, how do we work this into the budget? So we ended up submitting budget requests on the ResourceX platform. That way we knew which programs and which priorities a budget request would impact. From there, we exported all of these programs out. Our sustainability team reviewed all of them. This is the part that I think is really exciting. They reviewed 215 total requests. They identified some as having climate benefit, 37 of them. They used their own scoring matrix that they came up with to identify 16 as having a clear climate benefit and 21 to have possible climate benefit. They identified 4 key priorities and made a formal recommendation to my team and to the mayor to include in the budget. We've ended up funding 3 out of the 4 of those. We were able to work them into the budget. One of those was a position for an energy manager within city planning. And one of them was the actual priority-based budgeting, continuing that relationship with ResourceX into the future. So this is just an example of how they scored these impacts. They had measurable impact, none, potential, and some that we know and we can measure. moving into, how do we move forward? Does it enable climate action? How does it handle resilience, and how does it handle carbon reduction? All of this worked in conjunction with our data team, who have really honed in on program evaluation as well. So all of these things combined together for recommendations, and we look forward to continuing that in our current budget cycle that we're working through now. So in 2022, a new mayor was sworn in. We had to basically start over and re-champion the importance of this. So Mayor Gainey and Director Jake Pollack, both agreed that this is something to continue. So we approved a 3-year engagement with ResourceX. We started in 23 and the 24 budget cycle. We paused a little bit as people moved in and out of their positions. We had some turnover in both the sustainability and resilience team, and on my teams, we had some budget analysts leave. So where we are now is we've refreshed our program inventories. We are in the process of getting budget requests to align with these programs and the priorities, and then we will be sharing our requests with planning soon for the sustainability approach and input. We're also flagging budget requests explicitly this year for, would this be a good match for program evaluation? Can we start something and from the get-go know what numbers we need to look out for to make sure that a program is working and working successfully? This falls in line with the United States federal government is also thinking about ways to more meaningfully track program evaluation, especially as they are putting out grants and offering funds to states, counties, and municipalities like Pittsburgh. So what's next? We will reevaluate, we will evaluate our requests for sustainability, reallocate our costs, and then rescore programs against the priorities. We will engage with the public. That key piece of feedback and completing the loop is always critical. Historically, it's been difficult to kind of clearly articulate how budget and environment combine into one, but we've gotten, we think, a little bit better there. So we look forward to engaging with the public. We'll have some new insights workshops next year, and then our contract is up. So we need to look at the big picture, and just move through our regular procurement cycle again. In some form or fashion, I think we will keep moving through this program and keeping the mayor's priorities in line at the end of the day. So like I said at the top, the mayor is always emphasizing his priorities: safe, welcoming, and thriving. He is the first Black mayor in the city of Pittsburgh, so equity and trying to right some historic inequitable actions. It's incredibly important to his administration, to our administration, to us as people and constituents. So we are keeping that in mind every day as we move through work for the city of Pittsburgh. Thanks to priority-based budgeting, we can now relate each and every program to 1, 2, or all 3 of these priorities. Departments have changed how they think about the services that they provide. They are able to articulate programs more easily. They are able to come into us when they're making recommendations and requests that say, we think this will impact the mayor's vision for safety. We think this one will impact the mayor's vision for a thriving city. So it's nice to see departments really start to buy in as well. Our recommendations are influenced by priority scores, and we have worked through this over several budget cycles, but it's rewarding to see the progress we've made. That was my timer for 10 minutes, and I hit that right on. So I'll send it right back to you, Kale. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick. This was great. The audience has some questions. Everyone's encouraged to take those questions to the breakout rooms, but there is one in particular I think you could help with right now. And Brett's asking, is priority-based budgeting synonymous with participatory budgeting?
No, that's a great question. In my eyes, priority-based budgeting for us in Pittsburgh, at least, is knowing and having a clear sense of what the mayor and perhaps other elected officials want to see as an outcome. In this case, safe, welcoming, thriving. It is a clear commitment to the environment. It's a clear commitment to infrastructure. It's a clear commitment for mobility access, for people to get from point A to point B together. So we have those priorities, and we can then split up the budget, actually take our budget lines and say, this is what is necessary for our mobility and infrastructures team for bridge maintenance, as a program, or paving of roads, or community development or neighborhood services and things like that. The priority-based budgeting allows us to take budget requests and budget items and relate them back to the mayor's priorities. For us, we see participatory budgeting more as direct involvement from residents and from constituents. We have had some success at a small level with participatory budgeting. We have not found a way to loop in residents more completely, where you just say, here is $50,000. How would you prioritize that? How would you then spend those funds? How would you allocate those funds? We definitely have public engagement where we do some simulations, but participatory budgeting, in my eyes, is actually giving the residents the power to make the allocations. We're using that for feedback, but not yet directly allocating money 100% based on citizen feedback. So I hope that answers your question.
Great. Thank you for setting up that distinction. Really appreciate your presentation. We'll move on to the next one so that we don't cut Lucila short, but look forward to catching up with you in the breakout room. So next up, to talk to us a little bit about how the city of Santa Fe in Argentina works through partnerships and stakeholder collaboration, we have Lucila Garcia, who is the director of the International Cooperation Agency in the city. So looking forward to talking to you, Lucia. Over to you.
Hi, Kale. Hi, everyone. Well, I'm going to share my presentation. Well, we are going to talk about our new program that it's No One Left Behind, equity focused on tools for an inclusive transition. Well, Santa Fe is one of the pioneer cities, like Kale and everyone noticed about when we started, to adhere to the Malmö Commitment. We joined it in 2022 in October. And since then, and until the end of 2023, Santa Fe participations in the network has been focused on presenting the progress of the Integral Plan, the strategic plan for municipal management between 2019 and 2023. This plan made it possible to define the main sustainability challenges of the city. Included 3 important items: to improve the provision of public services, connectivity, and environmental environment in the neighborhoods, strengthen the community participation and networks between the public sector and the social civility, ensure the social integration and families through the comprehensive social policies. But we have changed our government in 2023, the 10th of December, and a new mayor started working here in the municipality of Santa Fe, Dr. Juan Pablo Poletti. From that moment on, we had a new administration and we intended to continue with this integral plan, but we changed and tried to make it possible, but with new objectives here in the new administration. So I'm going to talk about the new program that we installed in this new administration. And it is a strategy of territorialization. And this, I'm going to present it briefly, the territorial strategy. And we had 3 important and main objectives in this territorial strategy. First of all, it is important to highlight that we work as a team with transversal coordination and always oriented towards solving problems. It is important to notice that the previous plan has been, let's say, far away from what neighborhoods and neighbors tried to tell us about what was happening and the problems they had. So we try to install this important work team and coordinated and orientated to, let's say, solve the problems that neighborhoods had. So the secondly, in order for it to be orientated towards solving problems, we necessarily have to make an approach with diagnosis based on evidence and listening. That is, we start from both the data and from collecting the experiences of the neighbors. Third of all, and finally, with an intervention stage, this is carried out from close proximity with the participation and involvement of the community, with the objective of building a new link between neighbors and the municipality. This management has one of its main flags being an open and transparent government for the community. Well, this program, it's called Santa Fe Neighborhood or Santa Fe Barrio, and we talk about intervening each neighborhood to make a better city. We have 80, like you can see here in the slide, we have 87 neighborhoods in the city of Santa Fe. We have intervened from December 2023 till now, that it's August 2024. We have intervened 20 neighborhoods, and we have created these places, or let's say spaces of proximity. I'm going to try to explain how we are creating these spaces of proximity between neighborhood and the municipality. This will focus in the experience the municipality of Santa Fe is implementing, and it's fully aligned with 3 sustainability challenges we have proposed above. This program of neighborhood interventions is carried out with the coordination of the General Secretariat and its comprehensive project of neighborhood and environmental improvement in different strategic points of the city, with the objectives of improving the quality of life of each resident of the city. Why we focus this part, let's say, objective in a unit space? Because a neighborhood is defined as a space of proximity, closeness, and familiarity of primary place of social experience, the closest space of containment in the complexity of urban dynamics. The neighborhood scale has a spatial dimension and social interaction that enables in a higher level of knowledge of people that counteracts the uprooting of common in large cities. In this place where neighbors inscribe their personal and family life stories, generating emotional ties of belonging, appropriation, and identity with the place of where they live. I'm going to go with this strategy. We have 3 strategies here: physical, social, and symbolic. The first one is the physical one, is the diagnosis of general infrastructure. Let's say we go to the place and we have this kind of analysis where we need to change the infrastructure of the place, because we think that it's not connected with the neighbor's need. So in this one, the first one, the physical one, I'm going to explain, and we have to make a natural environment and everything built. We have to support the different activities of the neighborhood. In this dimension, the state of the streets, sidewalks, and paths are reordered, or we have to make a special equipment and presence, and we need to improve it and to make it better for neighbors. In this physical infrastructure change that we make in neighborhood, we tend to change the state of the trees, and the lighting, where they have drinking water and let's say potable water, sewage and gas, housing and special equipment, and we have a lot of presence of micro dumps. So we are trying to change this kind of stuff and trying to eliminate all the micro dumps. So, well, this is the first, let's say, strategic that make when we go to these neighborhoods. Then the social change is, we said, kind of different activities that are developed by the neighbors and the neighborhood organizations and the state institutions. These are the actions that promote various forms of social appropriation of the neighborhood. In this animation, we work with the interviews and records of opinions of the neighborhood referents of schools, health centers, clubs, churches, and various neighborhoods and social organizations, trying to identify the main dynamics of coexistence, interests, and motivations, as well as levels of commitment to the improvement of the neighborhood. And the third one, that is the symbolic, which is a set of assessments, imaginaries, and perceptions, emotions, and beliefs of the neighborhood neighbors. These are the cultural aspects that give inequities to the neighborhood. In this dimension, we work with talks, comments, and informal interviews with various peoples and groups of the neighborhood, trying to record the main customs, representations, and symbolisms that circulate among the neighbors and identify them as a neighborhood. In these three dimensions, we try to make the neighborhood better. And we have identified that with the physical, social, and symbolic strategic, we can change the way of living of the neighbors in all the aspects they need to be changed. So going to the 5, we create with these neighborhood interventions, we build citizens through neighborhood networks. We create networks for all the neighbors where they can find diverse affinities and interests, and with the purpose of supporting individuals, families, and the communities as a whole. These, let's say these neighborhood networks function mainly with a sense of solidarity, with norms of reciprocity and trust, and generating continuous interactions and persistent social ties. They also generally share the same horizons of cultural representations. The objectives of these neighborhood networks is to pursue providing school, health, and employment, emotional support, forming and recreational or theater groups, forming soccer or other sport teams, professing a religion, or keeping a tradition alive. They are true to the neighborhood networks with the capacity to generate concrete, responsive, and solutions to diverse situations. I can show you here. In total, we have intervened 20 neighborhoods. The work is organized according to a schedule that begins with a detailed survey of each neighborhood and the preparation of diagnosis based on active listening to the needs of the neighbors. Based on this diagnosis, various improvements are implemented. Road maintenance, cleaning of gutters, public lighting, care and provision of green spaces, weeding, pruning, eradication of microdumps, and treatment of falls at risk. One of the most relevant actions for the community is the management of the connection to drinking water, a key need to the well-being of the neighbors. Well, and at least I'm going to tell you about what we do with the garbage that it's shown here. We have a special treatment of the neighborhood garbage, and it's a key issue for neighborhoods, the garbage collection, a topic that is concerned in the city of Santa Fe, and for the reason the municipality has implemented a specific project called Neighborhood by Neighborhood Garbage, which combines traditional service with the work of neighborhood residents and social associations to recycle as much garbage as is possible, and at the same time to avoid the proliferation of microdumps. In several actors of the city, where structural conditions make access by garbage trucks difficult, social micro-enterprises for urban hygiene began to work, dedicated to collecting the waste generated by neighbors, then bring it into a strategic point so that the municipality can finally collect and transport all this into a landfill. So this is our, let's say, one of the main objectives of this administration is to eliminate and let's say work with the micro dumpings. And this program that is neighborhood by neighborhood garbage is one of our main goals in our administrations. So thank you all.
Lucila, thank you so much. I think you did a great job of showing that when you assess what the social equity dimensions of sustainability are, that it is not just one thing or one set of indicators that you're looking at. It is much more complex than that, but you can arrive at a definition for your community by working with your community members directly. And I particularly like that you went through a process to define what made a neighborhood and really could give boundary to a neighborhood that's beyond like a border of city streets or the end of where residents' homes end. It is much more about character and values and shared relations in a community. So I know folks in your breakout room will really like to hear about that assessment process. And yeah, great work using health and art and so much more as entry points to the work. So what we'll do from here is give the opportunity for our audience to go a little bit deeper with one of each of our guest speakers. So we've got 3 breakout rooms. Each of our speakers, Iris, Patrick, and Lucila, will be in one of those breakout rooms. We'll have an ICLAE staff member facilitating, and we'll probably spend around 20 minutes, maybe 25 if we have a little bit of time in those rooms. And then we'll join back together at the end in this big group format and just hear, some reflections from our speakers for a couple minutes each. And then we'll close out and I'll tell you about some exciting sessions coming up. So with that, I'll ask our organizers here to break us into the breakout rooms, and we'll see you in there. Welcome back, everyone. If your group was like mine, we could have kept going for much longer, but thankfully we do get a moment for reflection here. So we'll probably spend 10 minutes or so hearing some takeaways from each of our groups. And I believe those will be delivered by the guest speakers that we had and that we heard from earlier. So first up, we might turn to integrated planning. This was room 1 with Iris. Iris, maybe tell us a few of your, reflections coming out of that conversation.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, maybe if I can remember all the things that we talked, but of course there's still a lot of challenges when it comes to equal transition, because there are, well, it varies across cities what the opportunities are, what the challenges are, what sort of industries they have, and how people in different parts of the city are taken care of. For instance, there was this talk that there's this, for example, car repairing and energy when it comes to fossil fuel energy, those workers and how they will be educated for the new technology and so for the solutions, and what sort of how circular economy and social side could be combined. And also then we talked about the energy issues, how to secure affordable energy to different parts of the city, if there are different energy systems, different providers, whether they're public or private. So that is it's a challenge as well. But there was this great example that Brett shared about of reskilling of people, and also offering affordable furniture through repairing them, and that while people are also learning. And then there was this, unfortunately, we didn't quite hear because of the background noise, but then talked about electric buses, whether it's actually possible to get those, and whether there are something that people would actually use, or if they cost more. So I think that was one of the things that Frederick was trying to share. But those were the things that we discussed.
Thank you, Iris. Your comment at the beginning really stands out to me, that it's clear that just transition issues came up around workforce development, and often, cities are active in tackling this, offering workforce development opportunities, but it's often one department that's kind of tasked with this, or the city is partnering with a university, and it's kind of like a single track. But what you are offering is that all departments in the city have an opportunity to be involved in this just transition work and workforce training. So really appreciate that. Rebecca, you were in the room too. Did you have any takeaways from your side?
Thanks. No, it was really interesting what Iris just shared. So I think the role of social enterprises was something that I just wanted to add, in terms of what Iris had said, that this is a great possibility to actually bring some things together in terms of the objectives. We have climate. Iris shared that for Turku, circularity is basically a tool to achieve climate goals. So if we want to achieve climate and equity goals together, social enterprises in the circularity sphere come out as a great solution, and there was some sharing of that. Yeah, I think that were the main points from my end as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you to room number 1 for sharing out. If folks on the line were in room 1 and you had a top takeaway, if you put those in the chat, then we can collect everyone's reflections at the end. So let's move on to room 2. That was Patrick. I was facilitating. The topic was innovative budgeting. So Patrick, what did you hear that really stands out to you?
We had some good conversation. We talked a little bit about just trust in government itself. We honed in on government and funds from the government really serving as we're stewards of dollars for residents and constituents. It's not about me, it's not about the other government employees here. It's about what we're doing for the people who live and visit our places. We talked a little bit about getting youth involved and how we want to do that. We had an interesting conversation about food insecurity. I relayed that for Pittsburgh. It is kind of a new frontier for us to think more about food justice, as that jurisdiction falls a little bit into some other levels of government, but there's a need, so how do we fill it? We've been doing a little bit of food justice work with some of our federal COVID response monies, but those, of course, run out, so then what? We talked a little bit about public and private partnerships, the needs for residents being perhaps different than government intent, specifically with, demolition of vacant buildings versus rehabilitation, and trying to work that balance. And then at the end, we were having a really interesting conversation. We had Reiner was calling in from Namibia, and the conversation about a city that is rapidly shifting from a rural space to an urban space, that there isn't the opportunity for innovative budgeting if the regular level of city services aren't there, but it's still extremely important to think about with respect to climate and equity. So how do you balance that? And that's where we could have kept talking for a lot longer about that.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. I was in this group, and I was thinking about, if a community of any type is trying to adopt a priority-based budgeting approach, it could be really overwhelming to feel like you have so many priorities. We talked about housing and food and more. So how how do you define your priority? How could you, start small with it, essentially, and then build out your priority base over time. And that did resonate with me of, well, we could bucket priorities under, if food is the system that you want to target in the near term, there's food, there's housing, there's energy burden came up. So just feeling like you don't need to have everything in the city tackled at once. You can kind of bucket your priorities and adjust your budget to tackle those first. So that really felt useful to me.
And I think also that priorities change. That's an important thing to think about too, is if the priority right now is really we just need our basic infrastructure, then that's there. But it can grow and it can refine as you move forward.
Yeah, thank you to Florence was in our group saying you don't always need priorities, but entry points. I think that's true for so much of the work. So here we're rounding up with maybe 6 or so minutes left. So let's move on to room number 3. We had Lucila in there and facilitator Rocio. Please share with us your thoughts from your room.
Rocio, are you going to?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. We talked about 2 main issues. The first question was about the governments really don't know what the demand for climate change is and how to communicate it to their communities. And well, so we talk about this integrated plan that we have here in Santa Fe and the importance of the dialogue in between the municipality, let's say the government, and the neighborhoods, and how this dialogue has as a result the importance that climate change has in every community, and how to make it, let's say, a better place for neighbors in order to know how to recycle and how to work with all these tools that make the climate change a better place for them. And here in Santa Fe, or let's say in vulnerable countries, we have the problem that kind of our 80 or 85% of our population is poor. So it's difficult to communicate what the climate change and how to recycle it is important for their living and their communities, because they have other issues to solve first. But well, with this dialogue in between the municipality and the government and the communities, you can make a better place, trying to solving their problems and the climate change problems, both in the same, let's say, in the same plan. And this has the connection with the other problem that we talk about, that are green jobs, because you have some communities that have low incomes and other communities that have, let's say, have high incomes, and how we created green jobs here in Santa Fe. We talk about this community, or community associations that recycle all the garbage that comes from the different neighbors. These community associations, they work with the garbage of the city. They are different. We have here in Santa Fe, we have 3 different community associations that do this job, this green job, that is to recycle and to divide the garbage that comes from the city into organics and to plastics, and they make it in order to be possible to reuse it as a circular economy in other, let's say, to reuse it and to reuse the garbage, and they separate it. And this is a green job that that employs a lot of people here in Santa Fe.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lucila. In about a minute, Rocio, do you have any other reflections to share? And then I'll close us out for the day.
Okay, I don't want to stall your time, but maybe just for everybody to know, it is important, like the commitment that the mayor has in the municipality of Santa Fe with this program. And also for you to know, the city of Santa Fe joins the Malmö Commitment when there was a different administration, and this mayor chose to still supporting this commitment. So something that also is really important for this public policy to remain is the commitment of their leaders. So it's just like to congratulate to the municipality of Santa Fe for that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rocio. And a big thank you, a round of applause here for our speakers and our facilitators. This was a wide-ranging discussion today. And I guess that makes sense since we're trying to find all the tools that can help us integrate social equity into sustainability work. But it felt like we came out of it with some really concrete entry points, to use Florence's word. So thank you so much to our speakers, Iris, to Patrick, and to Lucila. Really appreciate you being here. So I'll wrap us up with just letting folks on the line know that if you love this session as much as me, you don't have to wait very long for the next one. Our next virtual forum event will take place next week. We'll be covering voices on the front line, advocacy for small island developing states. The session is going to build on last year's climate conference, COP28, to address what ambition should or could look like for the SIDS block, the small island developing states, and towns, subnational governments within them. So together we'll examine gaps identified by the global stocktake of the Paris Agreement that wrapped up last year. How did small islands show up in that stock-taking exercise? And consider ambition from planning to delivering local climate responses. And explore how partnerships can strengthen climate governance in that context. So please note that this event will take place with Caribbean and Pacific region time zones in mind. You can find the registration link on the website. I think we'll be able to circulate the registration to folks who attended or registered for today as well. But we're really looking forward to seeing you for that event next week or those upcoming after it. So thanks again for being here, everyone. See you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.